The grand chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of reinforced crystal, suspended in the vacuum between stars. Representatives from 467 species filled the floating platforms, their voices creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and translated words. Today marked the 47th consecutive Galactic Summit, and once again, the Terran platform remained empty. Ambassador Reth adjusted his breathing apparatus and rose from his seat. His amphibian skin glistened under the artificial lights as he surveyed the assembly. For 3 centuries, Earth had maintained its silence. 300 years of ignored invitations, unanswered messages, and deliberate isolation. "Honorable delegates," Reth began, his voice amplified across the chamber. "We gather again to address the human problem. Earth refuses to acknowledge our existence. They reject our laws, ignore our trade agreements, and mock our attempts at diplomacy through their continued silence." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. A representative from the Hive Collective clicked her mandibles in frustration. Counselor Petra of the United Systems remained seated, her 3 eyes focused on the empty platform reserved for humanity. "I propose we take action," Reth continued. "Sanctions have failed. Diplomatic pressure has failed. It is time we send a clear message that no world stands above galactic law." The voting began immediately. Platform after platform lit up with approval. Only Petra's section remained dark, abstaining from the decision. Within minutes, the resolution passed with overwhelming support. Admiral Brent of the Hive Collective received his orders before the session even ended. 200 warships assembled at the designated coordinates. Admiral Brent stood in his command center, watching the fleet organize into formation. His compound eyes processed multiple data streams simultaneously, tracking every vessel's position and status. "All ships report ready," his tactical officer announced. "Begin jump sequence," Brent ordered. "Destination Sol system." The fleet vanished in a cascade of blue light, crossing vast distances in moments. They emerged at the edge of human space, sensors immediately scanning for threats. Nothing appeared on their screens. No defense platforms, no patrol ships, no military presence of any kind. "This is Admiral Brent of the Galactic Enforcement Division," he broadcast on all frequencies. "We are entering your system under the authority of the Galactic Council. Respond immediately." Silence answered him. The communications officer checked his equipment twice, confirming the transmission had been sent and received. Still, Earth said nothing. "Advance to lunar orbit," Brent commanded. "Maintain combat readiness." The fleet moved deeper into the Sol system. They passed Mars with its sprawling dome cities and orbital shipyards. Civilian vessels moved about their business, completely ignoring the massive military force entering their territory. Construction crews worked on a new station near Jupiter's moons. Mining operations continued around Saturn's rings. "They act like we are not here," the tactical officer observed. "Perhaps they are fools," Brent replied, though doubt crept into his voice. "Or perhaps they believe their isolation protects them." Earth grew larger on the view screens. The blue and green world looked peaceful, almost inviting. Orbital stations circled the planet in regular patterns. Shuttles ferried passengers and cargo between the surface and space. Everything appeared completely normal, as if 200 heavily armed warships had not just entered their home system. "Fire a warning shot," Brent ordered. "Target open space across their orbital path. Make it visible from the surface." The lead ship charged its main cannon. Energy gathered at the weapon's focal point, building to a brilliant white intensity. The shot launched, a beam of pure destructive force racing toward its target coordinates. Then it simply stopped. The energy dissipated as if it had struck an invisible wall. Sensors showed nothing in that location. No barrier, no shield, no physical object. Yet the shot had been completely negated. "What just happened?" Brent demanded. "Unknown, sir. Sensors detect no defensive systems, no energy signatures, nothing. Fire again, same location. 3 more shots vanished the same way. The fleet's scientists scrambled to analyze the phenomenon. Every instrument insisted nothing existed in that space, yet something clearly blocked their weapons. Try a physical projectile, Brent ordered. A tungsten rod launched from one of the destroyers. It accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed before reaching the same invisible barrier. The rod stopped instantly, its kinetic energy bleeding away harmlessly. Then it simply floated there, suspended in space. The communication systems across every ship activated simultaneously. No standard transmission protocols, no negotiation handshake, no warning. The system simply came online, displaying the same brief text message. "You are not welcome, leave." Brent felt his mandibles click in anger. This is unacceptable. All ships, prepare for sustained bombardment. Target that barrier with everything we have. We will burn through whatever trick they are using. "Sir, should we not attempt further communication?" the tactical officer asked. "They have had 3 centuries to communicate," Brent snapped. "They chose silence. Now they will learn the cost of that choice." For 3 days, the fleet pounded the invisible barrier. Energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, plasma charges, and graviton beams all met the same fate. They simply stopped, their energy dispersing into nothing. The barrier showed no signs of weakening. Earth's orbital traffic continued uninterrupted. The planet below went about its business as if the bombardment was not occurring. On the 3rd day, every screen in every ship activated again. This time, instead of text, they showed an image. A human woman sat in a simple office. Gray hair pulled back neatly, tired eyes behind thin glasses, and a slight smile that did not quite reach her face. "Good afternoon," she said in clear, unaccented Galactic Standard. "My name is Director Ann Roberts. I represent Earth's External Affairs Committee. I apologize for the delayed response, but we wanted to be certain you were serious about this intrusion before wasting everyone's time with conversation." Admiral Brent stood frozen, watching the human woman who spoke as casually as if discussing the weather. "We have been monitoring your bombardment with interest," Roberts continued. "Your weapons are quite impressive by galactic standards. However, I must inform you that you are wasting your ammunition. That barrier has withstood 3 days of your best efforts without the slightest fluctuation in integrity. It will withstand 3 years or 3 centuries with the same result." She leaned forward slightly, her expression growing more serious. "Now, I believe we should discuss why you are here and why you should leave." Director Roberts took a slow breath before continuing her transmission. Behind her, Admiral Brent could see a plain gray wall with a single window showing Earth's surface below. No grand displays of power, no threatening imagery, just an ordinary office. 300 years ago, humanity received first contact from your Galactic Council," Roberts began. "We were excited. Terrified, certainly, but excited. We spent decades preparing our response, studying your cultures, learning your languages. We sent our best diplomats to that first summit." She paused, her fingers interlaced on the desk before her. "Do you know what we discovered? Not wonder and cooperation, not a grand alliance of peaceful species. We found something else entirely." Brent felt his crew watching, waiting. He said nothing, curious despite himself where this human was leading. "We found a civilization built on hierarchy," Roberts continued. "Every species ranked by military strength, territorial size, and economic output. We found endless debates about expansion rights and conquest privileges. We found trade agreements that were barely disguised extortion. We found a council that settled disputes not through mediation, but through shows of force." Her tired eyes looked directly into the camera, as if she could see through the transmission to every being watching. "Humanity studied your civilization carefully. We attended 12 summits before we understood the fundamental truth. You do not want members. You want subjects. You do not seek cooperation. You seek submission. Every species in your council holds their position through strength or subservience to those stronger. This is propaganda, Brent finally spoke, broadcasting back to her. We offer protection, trade, and shared knowledge to all members. You offer protection from threats you often create, Roberts replied without missing a beat, suggesting she had anticipated this response. You offer trade agreements that favor the powerful over the weak. You share knowledge only after extracting payment in resources or loyalty. Admiral, we have recordings of every summit for 3 centuries. We have analyzed every treaty, every agreement, every resolution. The pattern is unmistakable. She pulled out a data pad and glanced at it briefly. In the past 300 years, your council has authorized 147 military interventions. Of those, 141 were against species who refused to accept unfavorable trade terms or territorial concessions. Only 6 were genuine peacekeeping operations. Those species violated galactic law, Brent argued, though he felt uncertainty creeping into his certainty. They violated laws designed to justify intervention, Roberts countered. Laws that require impossible standards of technological sharing, resource allocation, and cultural integration. Laws that make independence effectively illegal. She set down the data pad and leaned back in her chair. So humanity made a choice. We chose isolation. We chose to build our own path rather than submit to yours. We chose silence because we learned that any communication would be interpreted as negotiation, and any negotiation would be treated as the first step toward submission. You cannot simply reject galactic civilization, Brent said. You exist in this galaxy. You share this space. You have responsibilities to the greater community. Responsibilities you define, Roberts replied. Admiral, let me ask you something. In 300 years, has Earth threatened any galactic species? Have we raided your ships? Have we claimed territory beyond our own system? Have we interfered with your trade routes or your expansion? Brent said nothing. The answer was obvious. Earth had done none of those things. We have maintained perfect non-interference, Roberts continued. We asked only to be left alone. Yet here you are, at the head of 200 warships, demanding we submit to laws we never agreed to follow. Tell me, Admiral, who is the aggressor in this situation? The question hung in the air. Brent felt his tactical officer shift uncomfortably at a nearby console. Even his crew recognized the logic of her argument. The council voted, Brent said finally. I am following orders. Yes, the council voted. 467 species decided that Earth's silence was unacceptable, that our desire for independence was somehow a threat to galactic order. Did any of them consider that perhaps we simply want to be left alone? Robert stood up from her desk and walked to the window. The camera followed her movement. Humanity is not interested in your council, Admiral. We are not interested in your trade agreements, your territorial disputes, or your endless political maneuvering. We built our barrier and retreated to our own system because we wanted peace. We wanted to develop our own civilization, make our own mistakes, and find our own path forward. She turned back to face the camera. But you could not accept that, could you? You could not allow one species to exist outside your control. So you came here with your warships and your demands, trying to force us into submission. We came to enforce galactic law, Brent insisted. You came to enforce submission, Roberts corrected. There is a difference, though your civilization seems to have forgotten it. She walked back to her desk but remained standing. I am authorized to make you an offer, Admiral. Leave our system peacefully. Return to your council and tell them that Earth wishes to remain neutral. We will not join you, but we will not oppose you either. We will maintain our barrier and our isolation. In return, we promise never to expand beyond our system or interfere with galactic affairs. The Council will never accept those terms, Brent said. Then the Council values control over peace, Roberts replied. And that tells us everything we need to know about your civilization's priorities. She sat down again, her expression growing harder. I am also authorized to give you a warning. This barrier that has stopped your weapons so easily, it is the least of our defensive capabilities. Humanity spent 3 centuries in isolation, Admiral. We did not spend that time idle. We built. We prepared. We developed technologies your scientists would struggle to comprehend. Are you threatening us? Brent asked. I am informing you of reality, Roberts said calmly. You came here assuming Earth was defenseless. You assumed our silence meant weakness. You assumed you could simply force us into compliance. All of those assumptions were wrong. She glanced at something off-screen, then back at the camera. You have 12 hours to withdraw from the Sol system. After that, we will demonstrate exactly why your assumptions were mistaken. This is not a negotiation, Admiral. This is a courtesy. We would prefer you leave peacefully, but make no mistake, you will leave. The transmission ended abruptly. Every screen across the fleet went dark simultaneously. Brent stood in his command center, surrounded by his crew, processing what had just occurred. Sir, what are your orders? The tactical officer asked quietly. Brent looked at the chronometer. 12 hours. The human had given them 12 hours. Maintain position, he finally said. Alert all ships to maximum readiness, and contact the Council. They need to hear about this conversation. Officer Dale, a junior communications specialist, spoke up hesitantly. Sir, what if she is telling the truth? What if they do have weapons we cannot counter? Then we are about to find out, Brent replied, staring at Earth's blue surface on the view screen. But I will not retreat from an empty threat. The 12 hours began counting down. The chronometer ticked down with mechanical precision. 11 hours and 47 minutes remaining. Admiral Brent paced his command center while his crew maintained vigilant watch over their instruments. Earth's orbital traffic continued its normal patterns, utterly unconcerned with the military fleet hovering nearby. Officer Dale worked at his communications station, monitoring all frequencies. Something had caught his attention during Director Roberts' transmission. The way she spoke, the specific knowledge she demonstrated, suggested Earth had been far from isolated. They had been watching, learning, analyzing everything the galaxy did. Sir, I have been reviewing publicly accessible human networks, Dale said carefully. Why? Brent asked, stopping his packing. Director Roberts mentioned they have been studying us for 3 centuries. I wanted to see what information they gathered. And Dale hesitated. Their public networks discuss us openly. There are entire academic institutions dedicated to studying galactic civilization. I found thousands of papers analyzing our political structures, military strategies, and diplomatic patterns. They have been watching us very carefully. Knowledge does not equal power, Brent replied. They can study us all they want. It changes nothing. Respectfully, sir, I think it changes everything. They knew we would come. They predicted this exact scenario. Before Brent could respond, the communication systems activated again. Not with a transmission from Earth, but with incoming signals from beyond the Sol system. Multiple fleets were approaching. The Caladan Confederation, the United Systems, the Mineral Consortium, and a dozen other major powers were all sending ships. What is this? Brent demanded. Sir, the Council apparently sent additional forces, the tactical officer reported. They want to ensure Earth cannot resist. Total incoming ships number over 400. Brent felt a cold realization settle over him. The Council was not just enforcing compliance. They were making an example. They intended to crush Earth so thoroughly that no other species would ever consider isolation again. Time remaining, Brent asked quietly. 7 hours, 12 minutes. The additional fleets began arriving in groups. They spread out around Earth's orbital space, forming an enormous blockade. Commanders from different species argued over communication channels about positioning and targeting priorities. Nobody seemed concerned about Earth's warning. They all assumed the barrier was humanity's only trick. Ambassador Reth appeared on the communication screens, broadcasting from the council chamber. Admiral Brent, the council has decided to make this a joint operation. Earth must learn that galactic law applies to everyone. Their technology, whatever it may be, will be confiscated and distributed among member species. Their isolation ends today. Ambassador, Director Roberts gave us a warning, Brent said. Perhaps we should consider her offer of neutrality. Neutrality is not an option, Reth snapped. Earth exists in our galaxy. They will join our civilization or face the consequences. Begin your attack when the deadline expires. All other fleets will coordinate with your strike. The transmission ended. Brent looked around his command center at his crew. They had followed orders their entire careers. They trusted the council, trusted the system. But something about this situation felt fundamentally wrong. "Sir, 5 hours remaining," the tactical officer announced. Dale continued scanning Earth's networks. He found something that made him freeze. A discussion thread from 2 years ago, debating the ethics of what they called the eventual confrontation. Humans had been arguing among themselves about this exact moment, about whether isolation was sustainable, about whether they should reveal their capabilities or maintain their silence. "Admiral, you need to see this," Dale said, transferring the data to Brent's display. Brent read through the human discussions. They were remarkably candid. Some argued for maintaining absolute isolation regardless of galactic pressure. Others suggested making a show of force to deter future intervention. A third group advocated for limited engagement, sharing some technology while maintaining independence. The discussions revealed a civilization deeply conflicted about its relationship with the galaxy. They were not arrogant isolationists. They were genuinely afraid of what joining galactic civilization would cost them. "They are scared of us," Brent said slowly, the realization surprising him. "All this time, we thought they believed themselves superior, but they are simply afraid of losing their independence." 2 hours remaining, the tactical officer announced. The assembled fleets continued their preparations. Energy weapons charged. Targeting solutions were calculated and recalculated. Ship captains gave their crews inspirational speeches about enforcing galactic unity. Nobody questioned whether this was right. Nobody asked if perhaps Earth had a valid point. Except Dale, who kept reading human discussions, kept finding evidence that Earth had spent centuries trying to avoid this exact confrontation. 1 hour remaining. Brent made a decision. Open a channel to Earth, direct to Director Roberts. "Sir, the Council ordered no further communication," the tactical officer objected. "I am still in command of this operation," Brent said firmly. "Open the channel." Roberts appeared on the screen almost immediately, as if she had been waiting. "Admiral," she said simply. "You said you wanted to be left alone," Brent said. "Convince me that is the truth." Roberts looked surprised, then thoughtful. "What would convince you?" "Show me something real. Show me why you fear us. Make me understand." She was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well. I am going to share something with you that I was not authorized to share, but I think you deserve to know the truth." A data packet transferred to Brent's ship. Dale confirmed it was clean, no viruses or hostile code, just information. Brent opened it and began reading. It was a detailed analysis of galactic history from humanity's perspective. It documented how species that joined the Council gradually lost their cultural identity, their technological independence, their ability to make sovereign decisions. It showed how Council membership was less like joining an alliance and more like being absorbed into a greater whole. More disturbing were the projections. Human sociologists had modeled what would happen if Earth joined the Council. Within 50 years, human culture would be indistinguishable from broader galactic norms. Within 100, humanity would be just another member species, their unique perspective and values diluted into nothing. "We are not afraid of death, Admiral," Roberts said quietly. "We are afraid of assimilation. We are afraid of becoming just another voice in your grand chorus, losing what makes us distinctly human." 30 minutes, the tactical officer said. "You could have shared this before," Brent said. "You could have explained." "Would you have listened?" Roberts asked. "Would the Council have cared, or would they have simply dismissed our concerns as irrelevant?" Brent had no answer. He knew the Council would have dismissed them. Cultural preservation was not a recognized justification for avoiding membership. 15 minutes. The other fleet commanders were demanding updates, asking why Brent was communicating with Earth instead of preparing to attack. Brent ignored them. "What happens when the deadline expires?" he asked Roberts. She smiled sadly. "You discover what humanity built while you were busy conquering each other." 10 minutes. "Can you stop it?" Brent asked. "Can you call off whatever is about to happen?" "Yes," Roberts admitted. "But I will not. You came here with warships, Admiral. You came here to force us into submission. Now you will learn why that was a mistake." 5 minutes. Brent looked at his crew, at the hundreds of ships surrounding Earth, at the blue planet that just wanted to be left alone. 1 minute. Every ship's sensors suddenly screamed warnings. Energy signatures were appearing all around them, not just a few, hundreds of them. "Contact," the tactical officer shouted. "Multiple ships emerging from nowhere. I count 500. No, 700, still rising." 30 seconds. The number kept climbing. 800, 900. The sensors could barely keep up with the appearances. "Time," the tactical officer whispered. 1,000 warships materialized in perfect formation, surrounding every galactic vessel in a sphere of overwhelming force. They dwarfed anything in the galactic arsenal, each one larger than a Hive collective battleship. They appeared without warning, without warp signatures, without any detectable technology. And they remained completely silent, weapons unpowered, simply hovering in position. Director Roberts appeared on every screen across every ship in the assembled galactic forces. "Welcome to Earth's real answer," she said simply. Panic rippled through the galactic fleets like a shockwave. Ship captains screamed orders at their crews. Weapons officers struggled to acquire targeting locks on the human vessels. Every sensor array in the assembled forces tried desperately to analyze the ships that had appeared from nowhere. The human warships remained motionless, arranged in a perfect sphere that enclosed all 600 galactic vessels. Each ship was smooth and featureless, dark metal reflecting the light of the distant sun. No visible weapons, no engine ports, no seams or hatches. They looked more like sculptures than functional spacecraft. Admiral Brent forced himself to remain calm. His compound eyes tracked the data flooding his screens. The numbers made no sense. The human ships registered on sensors as solid objects, but their mass readings were impossible. They appeared to have no power signatures, yet they maintained perfect position against Earth's gravity. "Targeting solutions?" Brent asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. "Unable to acquire locks, sir. Sensors cannot penetrate their hulls. We have no data on their composition, structure, or systems." One of the Caladan destroyers panicked and fired. A brilliant blue plasma beam lanced out toward the nearest human ship. The beam simply vanished 3 meters from the hull, its energy dispersing into nothing. The human vessel did not react. It did not return fire, did not move, did not even acknowledge the attack. "Hold fire," Brent broadcast across all channels. "All ships hold your fire." But fear overrode discipline. More ships began firing. Energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, missile salvos, everything they had. Every shot disappeared before reaching its target. The human fleet absorbed the onslaught without the slightest response, like mountains enduring a rainstorm. Dale worked frantically at his communication station. "Sir, I am detecting something. The human ships are communicating with each other, but the protocols are unlike anything I have seen. The data exchange is instantaneous, no transmission delay despite the distances involved." "How is that possible?" the tactical officer asked. "I do not know. It violates everything we understand about information transfer." Director Roberts appeared on the main view screen again. Behind her, the window showed Earth's surface, peaceful and unconcerned with the chaos in orbit. "You came here with 600 ships," Roberts said calmly. "We responded with 1,000, not because we need that many to defend ourselves, but because we wanted to make a point. Numbers matter less than capability. Force matters less than preparedness." Ambassador Reth's voice cut across the communication channels. "This is a violation of galactic law. You cannot threaten member species with military force." "We are not threatening anyone," Roberts replied. "We are demonstrating why your threats against us were futile. There is a difference." "Your ships will be destroyed," Reth insisted. "The full might of the Galactic Council will reduce them to dust." "You are welcome to try," Roberts said without emotion. "We have been trying to avoid this confrontation for 3 centuries, but since you insisted on forcing the issue, we will show you exactly what we have been building in our isolation." A Mineral Consortium battleship attempted to break through the sphere of human vessels. It accelerated toward a gap between 2 of the massive ships, engines burning at maximum output. The 2 human vessels simply moved closer together, closing the gap without any visible propulsion. The battleship struck what appeared to be empty space and stopped instantly, as if it had hit a solid wall. "They have barriers between their ships," Dale reported. "The entire sphere is sealed." "We are trapped," the tactical officer said quietly. More galactic vessels tried to break free. All met the same result. They were caught in a cage they could not see, could not understand, and could not escape. Weapons continued to fire uselessly at the human ships. Captains shouted increasingly desperate orders. The organized military formation dissolved into chaos. Through it all, Brent watched Director Roberts on his screen. She looked tired, almost sad. This was not the expression of someone enjoying a victory. This was someone who had hoped to avoid this exact situation. "Why did you build all this?" Brent asked, broadcasting directly to her. "If you only wanted isolation, why create such overwhelming military force?" Roberts met his eyes through the screen. "Would you like the real answer, Admiral? The one your council does not want to hear?" "Yes." She took a breath. "Because we knew this day would come. We knew that eventually your civilization would not accept our refusal to join. We knew we would need to defend our independence with something more substantial than words. So we built these ships. We built our barrier. We built everything necessary to ensure that when you finally came to force us into submission, we could say no and make it stick." "You have been preparing for war for 3 centuries," Brent said. "We have been preparing for peace," Roberts corrected. "War is what happens when one side refuses to accept no for an answer. We have been preparing to defend our right to exist independently. There is a difference." Another fleet commander interrupted. "Your barrier will fail eventually. Your ships will run out of power. You cannot maintain this position indefinitely." Roberts actually laughed at that. "Commander, our barrier has been running continuously for 300 years. These ships do not use conventional power sources. We could maintain this position for 1,000 years without difficulty. Time is not on your side." "Then what do you want?" Brent asked. "If you do not want war, if you do not want to destroy us, what is the purpose of this demonstration?" "We want you to leave," Roberts said simply. We want you to return to your council and explain that Earth will not be joining your civilization. We want you to accept that one species in this galaxy chooses a different path. Is that really so unreasonable? The council will never accept it, Brent said. Then the council values control over coexistence, Roberts replied. And that is exactly why we refuse to join. A new voice joined the communication channel. Counselor Petra of the United Systems, the only one who had abstained from the vote to enforce Earth's compliance. Director Roberts, this is Counselor Petra. I advocated against this intervention. I argued that Earth's isolation should be respected. The Council overruled me, but I am curious about something. You clearly have the power to destroy our fleets. Why have you not done so? Roberts turned her attention to this new voice. Because destruction is not our goal, Counselor. We built these ships as a deterrent, not a weapon of conquest. We could have attacked your fleets the moment they entered our system. We could have destroyed them before they even knew we were there. But that would have made us the aggressors. It would have made us exactly what we refused to become. So you allowed us to attack first, Petra said thoughtfully. We allowed you to demonstrate your intentions, Roberts said. We wanted the galaxy to see who came here with weapons demanding submission and who simply wanted to be left alone. Brent realized something. You are recording this entire encounter. Of course we are, Roberts confirmed. Every transmission, every attack, every response. We will share these recordings with any species interested in seeing them. Let the galaxy judge who violated whose sovereignty. The galactic fleets had stopped firing. The futility of their attacks had become undeniable. Now they simply floated in the sphere of human ships, trapped but unharmed, waiting to see what would happen next. We will not destroy you, Roberts said, addressing all the ships simultaneously. We will not even damage your vessels, but you will leave our system, all of you, and you will not return. We have orders from the Council, Brent said. And we have the power to ignore those orders, Roberts replied. The question is whether you want to return home with your crews intact, or whether you want to test our restraint further. She leaned forward, her expression intense. Make no mistake, Admiral, our patience is not infinite. We have shown you our defensive capabilities. Do not force us to demonstrate our offensive ones. The sphere of human ships began to move, slowly compressing inward. The trapped galactic vessels found themselves being herded toward a single exit point, guided by invisible barriers toward the edge of the system. You are being escorted out, Roberts said. I suggest you do not resist. The human ships guided the galactic fleets toward the edge of the Sol system with mechanical precision. They maintained their sphere formation, slowly compressing and directing the trapped vessels like shepherds herding nervous animals. No violence, no threats, just inexorable pressure that made resistance pointless. Officer Dale had stopped monitoring tactical data and instead focused on something else. He accessed Earth's public networks again, searching for information about the ships surrounding them. What he found shocked him more than the ships themselves. Admiral, Dale said quietly, I found something. Public human records discuss these ships openly. They have been in development for 270 years. The project is called the Guardian Initiative. Guardian? Brent asked. Strange name for weapons of war. That is what confused me too, Dale continued. So I read deeper. The ships were not built to fight the Galactic Council. They were built for something else entirely. Before he could explain further, Ambassador Reth's voice blasted across all channels. This is an act of war. Earth has imprisoned lawful galactic forces. The Council will respond with the full might of our combined militaries. Director Roberts appeared on screen again, but this time her expression had changed. The sadness remained, but something else joined it. Resignation, perhaps, or determination. Ambassador, you still do not understand, Roberts said. This is not about you. This has never been about you. Then what is it about? Reth demanded. Roberts was quiet for a long moment. Then she seemed to make a decision. I am going to share something with you that we have kept secret for 3 centuries. Something that explains everything about our isolation, our preparations, and our unwillingness to waste time on galactic politics. She pulled up a star chart on her display. It showed a region of deep space far beyond the galactic rim. 73 years after first contact with your civilization, our deep space monitoring network detected something. An energy signature moving through intergalactic space. At first, we thought it was a natural phenomenon, but as we refined our sensors and gathered more data, we realized what we were seeing. The star chart zoomed in, showing a trajectory line. It pointed directly toward the galaxy. A fleet, Roberts said simply. Origin unknown, technology unknown, intent unknown, but moving steadily in our direction at a significant fraction of light speed. The communication channels fell silent. Every commander watched the display showing the approaching anomaly. How long until it arrives? Counselor Petra asked, her voice careful. Our current projections suggest 28 to 32 years, Roberts replied, though that estimate has a significant margin of error given the distances and unknowns involved. Why did you not share this information? Brent asked. Would you have believed us? Roberts countered. 3 centuries ago, humanity was the newest species in galactic civilization. We had the least advanced technology, the smallest territory, the weakest voice. If we had announced we detected a potential threat that your much more advanced sensors had missed, what would the Council's response have been? Brent knew the answer. The Council would have dismissed human claims as attention-seeking or technological error. They would have been ignored, possibly mocked. We made a choice, Roberts continued. Instead of trying to convince a galaxy that did not trust us, we would prepare ourselves. We would develop the technology necessary to face whatever was coming. We would become strong enough to defend not just Earth, but potentially anyone else who needed defending. You built all this for a threat that might not even be hostile, Reth asked incredulously. We built all this because we could not afford to assume it was peaceful, Roberts replied. The energy signatures we detect suggest technology far beyond anything in our galaxy. Ships that can cross intergalactic space at relativistic speeds. A civilization capable of moving entire fleets across millions of light years. Whether their intentions are conquest, exploration, or something we cannot imagine, we needed to be ready. Dale was reading through more human records. Sir, this explains everything. The humans created the Guardian Initiative specifically to face this external threat. Their isolation from galactic politics was not arrogance. They were focusing all their resources on preparation. Why call it the Guardian Initiative? Brent asked. Why not the Defense Initiative or the Survival Initiative? Roberts heard the question through the open channel. Because defense and survival are selfish goals, Admiral. We built these ships to guard, not just Earth, but potentially the entire galaxy. We knew that whatever was coming would not care about our political divisions or territorial disputes. It would see a galaxy full of life, and we had no way to predict what it would do with that discovery. She switched the display to show detailed technical readouts of the approaching fleet. While your council spent 3 centuries arguing about trade routes and expansion rights, we spent that time developing weapons that could face an unknown threat. While your species fought each other over resources and territory, we built ships that could protect everyone. And you call us isolationists. This is absurd, Reth protested. A convenient story to justify your military buildup and refusal to join civilized society. Believe what you want, Roberts said tiredly, but I am about to prove our data is real. She tapped controls on her console. Suddenly, data streamed into every ship's communication system, detailed sensor logs spanning 3 centuries, mathematical models, trajectory calculations, energy signature analysis, thousands of pages of scientific documentation. "This is everything we know about the approaching fleet," Roberts said. "Every measurement, every observation, every projection. Share it with your council. Let your scientists analyze it. They will confirm what we have been telling you." Dale began reviewing the data immediately. Even his basic understanding of astrophysics confirmed the measurements were consistent and detailed. This was not fabricated. This was decades of careful scientific observation. "Even if this is true," Brent said slowly, "even if something is approaching, that does not explain why you refused all diplomatic contact. You could have shared this information while still participating in galactic civilization." "Could we?" Roberts asked. "Admiral, we studied your civilization carefully. We watched how member species operate. Every species that joins the Council becomes dependent on it. Their military becomes integrated into galactic forces. Their technology becomes shared property. Their resources become subject to Council allocation. Their sovereignty becomes negotiable." She stood up and walked to her window, looking out at Earth below. "If we had joined your council, we would not have been able to build these ships. The council would have demanded we share the technology. They would have argued that resources spent on the Guardian Initiative should be allocated to current galactic priorities. They would have delayed, debated, and ultimately prevented the very preparations that might save this galaxy." "You are saying we would have doomed ourselves," Petra said quietly. "I am saying your system is designed for managing current threats, not preparing for future ones. You react to crises, you do not anticipate them. That is not a flaw exactly. It is simply how your civilization operates, but it is incompatible with what needed to happen." The human ships had nearly pushed the galactic fleets to the edge of the Sol system. Soon, they would be expelled entirely. "So what happens now?" Brent asked. "You push us out, we return to the Council with your data, and then what?" Roberts returned to her desk and sat down heavily. "That depends on your Council. If they analyze our data honestly, they will realize the threat is real. They will need to begin their own preparations. They will need to stop fighting each other and start working together. And they will need to decide whether they want Earth's help." "You would help us?" Brent asked, surprised. "After we came here to force your submission?" "Despite everything, you are still the only other intelligent species we know of in this galaxy," Roberts said. "When that fleet arrives, assuming it is hostile, we will need every ship, every weapon, and every ally we can muster. Personal grievances become irrelevant in the face of extinction." The human ships reached the system boundary. A gap opened in their formation, creating a clear path to open space. "You are free to leave," Roberts announced. "Return to your council, share what you have learned, and decide whether you want to spend the next 30 years preparing for survival or fighting over territory that might not matter in a few decades." The galactic fleets began moving through the gap, eager to escape their imprisonment. But Brent held his position, watching Earth on his view screen. "Director Roberts," he said, "I will personally ensure the Council takes your data seriously." "Thank you, Admiral. That is all we ask." The journey back to galactic space felt longer than the journey to Earth. Admiral Brent spent the time reviewing the data Director Roberts had shared. Officer Dale worked alongside him, verifying calculations and cross-referencing the human observations with their own astronomical records. "It is all consistent," Dale said after hours of analysis. "The energy signatures exist. Our own deep space sensors detected them years ago, but our scientists classified them as natural phenomena, background radiation from intergalactic space." "Because we were not looking for artificial sources," Brent said quietly. "We assumed nothing could cross those distances." The other fleet commanders were broadcasting frantic messages among themselves. Some wanted to immediately return to Earth with overwhelming force. Others argued for presenting the human data to the Council. A few suggested ignoring the entire situation and pretending the confrontation never happened. Counselor Petra's voice cut through the chatter. All commanders, this is Counselor Petra. I am invoking emergency session authority. We will present this information to the full council immediately upon arrival. No independent action will be taken against Earth until the council has analyzed the data. Is that understood? Reluctant acknowledgments came from most commanders. Ambassador Reth remained silent, which Brent interpreted as resentful agreement. 3 days later, the assembled fleets arrived at the council chamber. The massive crystal structure orbited the galactic core, representing the heart of civilized space. Usually, returning from an enforcement action meant celebrations and commendations. This time, the ships approached in shame. The council session began within hours. Representatives from all 467 member species gathered, demanding explanations for the failed enforcement action. Admiral Brent stood before them, feeling very small despite his military rank. Honorable Council, Brent began, I must report that Earth possesses military capabilities far exceeding our initial assessments. They successfully repelled our enforcement action without destroying a single ship. The chamber erupted in shouting. How could primitive humans defeat 600 galactic warships? What technology did they possess? Why had intelligence reports been so catastrophically wrong? Brent waited for the noise to subside before continuing. However, the military confrontation is not the most important discovery we made. Earth shared information about an external threat approaching our galaxy. He transferred the human data to the Council's systems. Scientists and analysts began reviewing it immediately. The shouting faded as beings processed what they were seeing. This cannot be accurate, one representative protested. Intergalactic travel at these speeds is impossible. We thought the same, Brent replied. But our own sensors confirm the energy signatures exist. We simply classified them incorrectly because we did not believe artificial sources could be the explanation. A Caladan scientist stood up. I have reviewed the human calculations. Their methodology is sound. The trajectory projections are mathematically valid. If this data is accurate, something is indeed approaching our galaxy. Something big, another scientist added. The energy signatures suggest a fleet of at least 300 vessels, each potentially larger than our biggest battleships. The council chamber fell silent as the implications settled over everyone. 300 unknown ships, technology capable of crossing intergalactic space, arrival projected in less than 30 years. Ambassador Reth finally spoke. This could be an elaborate deception. Humans could have fabricated this data to justify their military buildup and avoid consequences for refusing council authority. To what end? Counselor Petra asked. If they wanted to avoid consequences, they already demonstrated they possessed the military power to do so. They did not need to invent an external threat. They trapped our entire enforcement fleet and released us unharmed. They proved their point through action, not deception. She is right, Brent said. Director Roberts was not trying to trick us. She was trying to warn us. A United Systems representative raised a tentacle. Assuming this threat is real, what do the humans propose we do about it? They have spent 3 centuries preparing, Brent answered. They developed technology specifically designed to face unknown threats. They built their Guardian initiative while we fought each other over territory. They are offering to share their preparations, but only if we accept certain conditions. What conditions? Multiple voices asked simultaneously. Brent pulled up a message Director Roberts had sent him privately before his fleet departed the Sol system. He had been authorized to share it with the Council. The message appeared on displays throughout the chamber. Earth will share defensive technology and coordinate defense preparations under the following conditions. First, Earth maintains complete sovereignty and does not join the Council. Second, all member species cease military conflicts with each other and redirect resources toward mutual defense. Third, The Council establishes a joint command structure for facing the external threat, with Earth as an equal partner despite not being a Council member. Fourth, no species attempts to claim or confiscate Earth technology for purposes other than mutual defense. Unacceptable, Reth said immediately. They want equal authority without accepting equal responsibility as Council members. They want to help us survive without sacrificing their independence, Petra corrected. Given that they have been preparing for this threat while we ignored it, perhaps their conditions are reasonable. The debate raged for hours. Some representatives argued that Earth should be forced to share technology regardless of conditions. Others pointed out that the failed enforcement action proved Earth could not be forced to do anything. A few suggested accepting Earth's terms immediately. Many proposed modifications and compromises. Finally, a vote was called. Should the Council accept Earth's conditions for cooperation? The tally split nearly evenly. 234 species voted to accept Earth's terms. 233 voted to reject them and demand unconditional submission. Councillor Petra, as one of the most senior members, cast the tie-breaking vote. I vote to accept Earth's conditions. We need their help more than we need to preserve our pride. The chamber erupted again, but the vote was final. Earth would be granted extraordinary status, a sovereign ally rather than a member species. Brent received orders to return to Earth, this time not as an enforcer but as a diplomat. Officer Dale volunteered to accompany him, fascinated by human culture and eager to learn more about their technology. The return journey took 3 days. As Brent's ship approached the Sol system, he wondered if the invisible barrier would stop them again. Instead, he received a communication authorization code and coordinates for a meeting location near Mars. Director Roberts met them at a human orbital station. She looked even more tired than before, but she smiled when Brent and Dale arrived. "Welcome back, Admiral," she said, shaking his hand in the human greeting gesture. "I understand the Council has accepted our proposal." "By a single vote," Brent admitted. "Many still oppose the arrangement." "Democracy is rarely unanimous," Roberts replied. "But it is enough. We can begin coordinating our preparations." She led them through the station to an observation deck overlooking Earth. "I want you to understand something, Admiral. We did not build the Guardian Initiative because we wanted to be warriors. We built it because we hope to prevent war, not just with your Council, but with whatever is coming." "Do you believe they will be hostile?" Dale asked. "We have no idea," Roberts admitted. "They might be peaceful explorers. They might be refugees fleeing something worse. They might be conquerors. We simply cannot know until they arrive. But hope for peace while preparing for war is the only rational approach." She pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's preparations. Shipyards in orbit around Jupiter, manufacturing facilities on the moons of Saturn, research stations scattered throughout the outer system. "This is what 3 centuries of focused effort looks like," Roberts said. "We built all of this while your Council argued about trade routes. Imagine what we could accomplish together if the galaxy stopped fighting itself and worked toward a common goal." Brent studied the display. The scale of human preparation was staggering. They had transformed their entire solar system into a fortress and factory. "How do we begin?" he asked. "We start by sharing what we know," Roberts replied. "My scientists will work with yours to verify our threat assessment. Our engineers will help your species understand the principles behind our defensive technology. Your military strategists will coordinate with ours to develop response plans for different scenarios." "The Council wants access to your ships," Brent said carefully. "And they will have it," Roberts confirmed. "But not as conquerors claiming spoils of war, as partners learning from each other. There is a difference." She turned to face them directly. "I need you to understand something, Admiral. Earth is taking an enormous risk by sharing our technology. We maintained our isolation specifically to prevent our capabilities from being misused. We are trusting that the approaching threat is serious enough that the galaxy will cooperate rather than compete. What if we betray that trust? Dale asked. Then you prove we were right to remain isolated, Roberts said simply. And when the unknown fleet arrives, you will face them without our help. But I do not believe that will happen. I have spent 3 centuries studying galactic civilization. You are flawed, certainly. You fight too much, you compete when you should cooperate, and you value pride over pragmatism. But you are also capable of greatness when properly motivated. She gestured toward Earth below. We are betting the future of humanity that you will choose cooperation. Please do not make us regret that decision. Over the following months, Earth's technology began spreading through galactic civilization. Human engineers taught other species how to create the barrier technology that had stopped the enforcement fleet. Human scientists shared their detection methods for identifying approaching threats. Human strategists worked with galactic military commanders to develop coordinated defense plans. The 1,000 warships remained in orbit around Earth, visible reminders of humanity's capabilities. But they were no longer seen as threats. They were seen as guardians, protectors preparing for a danger that the galaxy had ignored for too long. 27 years until projected arrival of the unknown fleet. The galaxy finally stopped fighting itself and started preparing. And Earth, the isolated world that had ignored every summit, became the unlikely leader of galactic defense. Not through conquest or submission, but through the simple act of preparing for a future others had failed to imagine. Director Roberts stood at her window, watching ships from 100 different species working alongside human vessels. Building, training, preparing. 3 centuries of silence, she said to herself, all leading to this moment. I hope we are ready. Outside, the galaxy prepared for what was coming, together.